Ready?
I'm ready, man.
I feel like at least some ways maker. Anyone got a good whistle? Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the Bird Club.
Welcome to the ranch, the Catalyst Ranch team. This is Chicago Meteor Meetup. As you know, if any of you are not here for the Chicago Meteor Meetup, to hear about Facebook, React, and Meteor, well, hope you enjoyed the pizza. Our special guest tonight is Gerard Saché from Differential, and we're going to be talking a little bit to warm you guys up about atmosphere packages. I know I said I'd be talking about my experiences with testing. We'll touch on that a little bit at the end, but first I want you to get set up making a package. How many of you have made a package, whether you've published it or not, to Atmosphere? Raise your hands if you've made it. Okay, so if you are ready to make this a hands-on event, you all will have made your first package tonight. How's that? Okay. Yeah. I'll explain why I think it's a good idea to do that. So I'm on Twitter at Chicago Grooves. I work for OpinionLab. My company, OpinionLab, sponsors this meetup. Thank you, OpinionLab. Thank you. We are looking to build a team. So if you're interested, send me a line. And it's all right with you, what we did?
Yeah.
So cool. All right. So let's see. I do have to do some screen movement here. All right. So this is our first time doing a broadcast of tonight too. So just so everyone's aware, also that we're broadcasting this. So thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties. So I have the not enviable task of giving a presentation on packages without making any inappropriate jokes. So wish me luck. I'm going to really, what am I saying? Everyone loves getting packages, right? Whether it's Christmas time or whatever your reason. And every part of the development ecosystem has its own package manager. Right? Does anyone know a developing environment that doesn't have its own package manager? I just learned that Python has one too. They've had one for a while. So Ruby Gems, NuGet, Bower, NPM, and of course for Meteor, Atmosphere. What are packages? So this is kind of a vote thing. Who thinks packages? There's not one right answer, right? But raise your hands if you've used a package because you were looking for a thing that could do a specific task. Okay, what's an example of one of those tasks? Account sign-in, right? So someone's got this nice package for account sign-in, or it's an API integration. The first thing you do, right? Meteor search package name, or go to App Store and look for a package. So everyone, I think, is familiar. You get very quickly familiar with that type of development package. What about this? Things that you build because you didn't find something to do that. Meteor is a young ecosystem, right? So you're looking for a Redis package, and maybe you find one, but maybe it has a few major bugs. Because I need to get around to fixing that. Maybe I'll make my own. There's a lot of things that fit in the crack because you build it because you either didn't find one or you found one, but you have a different way of thinking about it and want to put your own stamp on it. Maybe you just are making a free time and you just like make packages day and night to put out in the community to help others. Who's in that camp? Everyone loves getting angry issues. Actually, I'm glad you raised your hand. What do you have a package you make?
Yeah, there's like a million carousels out there, but I couldn't find any in React. So,
okay. So you have a React carousel. That's very cool. Oh, for NPM. Okay, yeah. So sometimes you just want to like scratch an itch and fill a void, and maybe it just works for you. But I don't know. How many people use packages as a way to structure the applications they build internally? Ah, we got one. Why do you do that?
Modularity.
modularity.
Or I guess just makes it easier to do stuff later.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I noticed that a lot of people coming to Meteor don't necessarily have that viewpoint. That's fine, because you don't have to. You can get a package off the ground, throw in some subscribes, some collections, and keep going, and you will have a functioning application at some point. But I want to paint a picture of a world that's just based on adding packages, building your app and taking things out. So let's talk through a kind of thing that you might be asked to build at some point in time. And this is part of the new Meteor forums. If you haven't been to forums.meteor.com, it's a really neat place. I think they kind of want to take all Stack Overflow and do it in forums. It's pretty nice. So here's somebody writing about Meteor Flux. And let's say that this feature that we're writing, let's say that we have something like Telescope, some sort of blogging platform. And what we're trying to do is, see that link to Flux, how it counts? I think it's counting how many times it's been shared. For the sake of this discussion, let's say how many times it's been clicked on or how many times it's been shared. So your starting point is a blog application. You want to add this feature. Okay, so what are some things that you'll need to do to have this feature? Is there any server-side component to this feature? I think so. I think if you didn't have a collection that tracked counts, you're going to make one, right? And you will have some keys and lots of collection-related stuff. Maybe when somebody clicks on this, you're going to call a server-side method. So maybe you're going to make a method that encapsulates this thing was clicked on. And there's probably some client-side functionality to this. I mean, you could open up an existing template that you have that renders this page and just kind of hack it in. But what if you instead decided that you're going to load after this page has loaded, and you're going to change things that that match? You're going to do some client-side chicanery, right? And yeah, I use the word chicanery. And you're going to load after jQuery. Right? Well, jQuery is just always there, right? But what if you could explicitly say load after jQuery? Anyway, you see where I'm going with this, right? You're going to be in one, let's say that you commit this in one commit. You're going to be touching files on server, touching files on client, maybe opening up existing files, and you're just going to be all over the place, right? Oh, and not to mention the fact that you have to add this into an existing app that's pretty full of features and looks kind of like this. There's your app. So where are you going to fit this feature? Oh, I know. There's some room here. I'll just stuff some things up there. It's actually, I've moved a few times, and I'm actually kind of impressed with this truck. I mean, look at it really use the space to the best of its ability. But, yeah, so then you'll tuck this stuff in, and then what if you broke something? You just need to pull out the feature you just added, right? Oh, just reach in and grab that Lowe's box and just pull it out, right? So is that kind of like what apps look like after a while? So I ask you this. How do the pros do it? Who are the pros? Well, the pro movers, right? Or think about Federal Express or UPS who deliver packages all day, right? You figure that if anyone has got this thing down to a science, they do, right? And let's ask this guy how he does it. Yeah, I use packages. What? I mean, look at my truck. I mean, it's beautiful, right? I need to pull one out. I pull it out. Oh, not only that, everything's in boxes, right? And it'd be inconceivable that you try to remove a box from this truck and it's magnetically bound to 2/3 of the other boxes, and you pull it. I mean, there are no invisible forces acting in the packages, right? They're just packages, and that's why you don't even have to know what's inside them, right? You just add them or take them out at will. So that's how the pros do it in this world. And how do the guys from Meteor develop Meteor itself? This is a graph I generated of the various dependencies inside of Meteor. It's a little bit cut off. I'll send you a fuller version of that. But each one of these is a package. So Blaze. Well, what does Blaze have? Well, it has a dependency on Tracker. And if you just pull in Blaze, you're pulling in everything that it depends on, right? And look at this little guy, Tracker. It doesn't depend on anything. He's actually like one of the most depended upon things. So if he were, a package in a truck, he'd be all the way in the back of the truck, right? Everything else, stacks on top of it, and you very seldom have to change the tracker. That's made, it's done, it's reliable. So how do you do this? Why do you do this? Well, first, how you do it. I think I've answered why, right? It's the difference between this and this. That's why. How you do it? Well, let's look at a package manifest. I know the font is very small, but this is right out of Meteor's GitHub repository. And I'll point out that every package does not have to be published to Asteroid. You can just have a packages folder in your app and then name each package and put a package.js file. So that graph that you saw, I'll read you some of these things. So what is Blaze? What makes Blaze what it is? Well, here's the description. And then here's what it exports. Blaze, this capital B Blaze constant that you get, that's how you get it. You also have UI.register helper, etc., and handlebars. So this is what it provides. And then this is the list of things that it uses, including jQuery, tracker, underscore. And each line on that graph that you saw is one of these API.use commands. So you see, Blaze will always have everything it needs because it tells you what it needs. It asks for what it needs. And when the Meteor packager thing is doing its job, ISO build, it figures out how to pull all that stuff together. So also, the things in this truck, you think about the ordering of them, like you bet your bottom dollar FedEx trucks don't leave without the route being figured out in advance, and the packages are loaded in the order, in the reverse order of what they're going to be delivered. So even though I showed you that crazy looking graph, that graph also can be ordered. It's called topological ordering. And you kind of load from the bottom up. So tracker, which has no dependencies, has to be loaded before reactive R. And when you require spacebars, it pulls in all of that stuff. So from packages just simply declaring what they need, you have tools that can figure out ordering. And how about that? So dependency cycles are bad, right? You don't want to have a package that depends on the two packages that mutually depend on each other, right? Because which one loads first? So that's a whole other topic. So have I convinced you? You want to make a package? Sounds too hard, huh? Well, this week I posted something on Crater that should make it a lot easier. And I think it'll take everybody about 5 minutes. And yes, I want this to be a hands-on component. If you need paper towels, wipe your pizza grease off your hands, they're here. Please, all who are inclined to do so, I want to hear a lot of clattering of keys, go to package-kitchen.meteor.com. And I've even, typically you want to have something in mind, like that you want to build. I've even thought of like a simple example that you can, let's see, we're not exactly on screen. That's why you guys got to go to this on your screen. So this is what it looks like. You have to just choose a few parameters of your package. So let's just say you want to add a new logging function, right? You want your name, like take your first name, and you say, I want to write a package that when somebody calls my first name as a function, it writes it out to a file. So go to package-kitchen.meteor.com. And I will shut up so you can do that, and I will wait for questions.
Tell them that this has nothing to do with Meteor Kitchen.
Oh. Yeah, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's the Meteor chef. There's a guy who made something called Meteor Kitchen, which also kind of kickstarts your application. Let me see if I can show you that. Okay. So please feel free to go and write your own package. I've pre-filled this, right? So all you have to do is explain who you are on Atmosphere. That's if you're going to publish it, but it's typically a prefix. Like I said, my alias is Genius. And yet on GitHub and Twitter and everywhere I'm another name. And so that indicates where it will be put on Git. And I'll name it my name, right? This is a package, my name. That's how you install it. And before I fill this out, I just want to explain that as you fill this out, it reactively, writes your package, including whatever files you need. And then you can just click Download Package as zip, and then there's your kit. You just need to download it as a zip, unzip it to the local packages directory of an app, and then you do have to say Meteor add, your package name. It has to be listed in the packages file of Meteor for it to get picked up, not just be in the local packages. So what will it do? It will say my name, and you could put up a demo site. I just added that field because a lot of sites do have, demo sites. So I'm just writing it into the README, right, so that you can see that. And then, is this going to enhance the client or the server? Well, see, what changes is this package specification says where to add your files. Either add them to the client, or add them to the server, or add them to both locations. And then let's take away that JS hint. I just kicked that off for you. Then this is going to be a function that says console log Dean. And you see it's kind of made a best guess of what variable to export. And so, typically what you do is you write some code, and the code just goes in a file in one of the directories, client, index, or shared, and it's exported. And that's how this package provides a function to the outer environment. And so I mentioned testing. Here's where testing comes in. TinyTest is the testing framework that Meteor internally uses, but Mocha is a testing strategy you can use for packages that just recently came out, and it's awesome. So you can select Mocha. The Percolate Studios people, I believe, made that.
No.
No, not the Percolate Studios?
No.
Okay. Who did that? Yeah.
Respondly did it.
Yeah, that was the Mad Eye.
Yes.
Meteor.
That's who it was.
Yeah, Meteor. There you go.
Oh, cool.
I think that's what it was. At least they brought it in. They didn't write logo. Brought it to me.
Yeah, they brought it in. So then you choose your testing strategy, and if you run without tests, that's legal. And then that's it. You download the zip, and running your tests depends on how you chose, which framework you chose, TinyTest or Mocha. But it's very straightforward and simple. And you can, once you've downloaded this, put it into your app, you can run the tests for any package in your app. So that is pretty much the package kitchen. Any questions? Anyone see how to close this up in an app, Ben?
How would you suggest people learn more about packages and the structure of the package.js file? Like, how did you learn it? Did you learn it by reading the docs or just reviewing other people's packages?
I did start by copying and pasting packages, basically duplicating packages that were already made, that already worked, and just changing their source files and stuff. And then once I had one that I made that I had gone through a couple of revisions of, I started copying and pasting my own. And then I realized, wow, things like this, or the name of the package, they appear everywhere. And it's, kind of tedious to repeat them, and so I just made this generator to kind of simplify that process. But I definitely started by copying other packages. And then docs.meteor.com, it used to be all undocumented, all of this stuff, but it has improved. So it's a little bit better as far as publicly documented.
Where would we put the assets? Like, let's say that I want to add, I don't know, bourbon or something like that.
So there's two. That's a good question. Is that where do you add the assets to your package? So now bourbon, you mentioned something that might be found in another Meteor package. So if you can just find another Meteor package.
No, I know. I'm just thinking what I would like to package. What would be super easy without kind of going to, maybe some CSS framework or something like that.
Right. So first, if you want to like enhance an existing Urban package or CSS package, you want to enhance an existing package, you still write your own, and then you say API.use that other package.
Okay.
And now, by depending on your package, someone is pulling in what you wrote plus what the other package wrote. There's some tricks for doing that, and I'd say look at the documentation for details. But the other part of the question is, so this is how you depend on another package and pull it in, but API add files is where you add CSS, GIF, resources that you want to become part of the bundle that Meteor generates.
And in the square brackets is the kind of folders where they would, it's a kind of search path for them, or
it's where, so like, if you're loading an image file, and you have an asset subfolder of your package hierarchy, you'll load that only on the client.
Okay.
And then server, and then I believe maybe Cordova is another setting. It's all the major Meteor environments is how you target a file to.
For example, if I wanted to add a font file, let's say that's like super simple, I would put some in shared, right? I would put maybe assets folder, put it there, and just include it here, and that would work.
Yeah, if you want to include a font file, make an assets folder.
And then just find, right?
Yep, API.add file. So everything has to be explicitly added. There's nothing implicit that gets proven. Yeah, good questions. Good questions. Yeah, so picture a future of packaging and just adding and removing. If you're, going to pull in some mapping-related functionality, you could depend upon the mapping thing and then write your own code. Maybe you could try next time making a package that pulls in the mapping thing and contains your own code. Just one example use case.
And you always have to test them. How do you debug them? In a real app, obviously, right?
You can test them by running their own private test suite, but it's become a typical pattern that you'll include an example real application with it. And so when you go and fork this on GitHub, you'll see that the contents of this URL are in an example folder in this gem. So this is not yet a package you can add to your app and make packages in place. It's just, it's a package that has an example folder, and the example folder is on. So cool. Yeah, man.
How do you recommend adding private packages that you want to use in a multitude of your apps privately? Like, do you do submodules, symlinks?
Symlinks have worked for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to you more about that. It's
Oh yeah, that's what I was asking because
yeah.
There's
so
options.
What you can do is have a local directory. You have 3 applications, and you have a local directory that's parallel to those applications. And then inside the packages directory of each one of these, you can have a symlink. But then I don't know if that works when you deploy it. I actually haven't tried that.
You can deploy with some links. Meteor figures out.
Okay, it figures out to add it to the bundle.
Yep.
And that makes sense because it's listed in the Meteor packages file, so it's got to find it from somewhere, otherwise it would die. All right, great. Thank you very much. I'd love to talk to you about this a little bit more. You can, get a refill or something, and then we have Gerard, who's going to talk to us about Facebook and React, which a lot of you are here for. So very excited. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, Steve.
All right, so let's see. I'm going to shift to the screen. Yeah. You do this.
No. Look, it's like almost the same amount. I was hoping that you knew because I left. It's just water and get new ones. Oh, you know what that is, right?
He's actually worried.
I don't know. I don't kiss and tell.
Anyway.
Okay.
Wow.
Can you guys turn on your screen share?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
This.
Yeah, and then just minimize the Hangouts. Cool.
Is his space showing when he goes to a different space?
Mhm.
Does it show? Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
Do you have a link for that left piece there?
It's posted in the Meetup. We just posted it just before.
This is a good time to mention that we have Chicago Meteor Meetup Slack group. So if any of you guys are like crazy Slackaholics, like we are, don't tell our employers and our bosses. But see Ryan, he's the admin on it. Shake your hands, man. Who do people bug? That dude.
Yeah, come to me.
Yeah.
Or
You are.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And Gerard, do you want to do a plug for your guys' Slack group?
Absolutely. Right now. So we are Sweet Differential, which we'll talk about later, trying to do like a, kind of like a global Meteor Slack channel. Don't know a good way to tell you how to get to it. I think there may or may not be a sign-up page, but I'm not sure. Best way is probably to contact me, and then I'll tell you. I'll send you an invite. I don't know. There might be a sign-up page, but actually, I don't know, something. For that, I also want to take a quick panorama.
Nice.
For my wife.
Duggan in Chicago.
It's beautiful.
Look, honey, I really did not go to Vegas.
And I go to Chicago. And then what's the thing? Oh, I wear one differential T-shirt. To at the end, if there's Q&A, I'll give it to the first person that asks a question. I actually brought two T-shirts.
Dude, that's awesome.
The second one is that shirt, so I throw that back. Sorry?
Yeah, welcome, Gerard.
Thank you.
So for those who didn't know, Gerard's from Cincinnati, so super special guest. So we really want to thank you for coming out, man.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll tell you. I'll just expand on that. Yes, I'm from Cincinnati. I work for a company called Differential, where we do mostly agency client work. But we have a couple startups that are internally to the company as well. So it keeps things exciting. It's not all about build library. We've thrown in Meteor, so you might see our name in the Meteor community a lot. All of our work is Meteor now. We used to have, I think, like a Rails project, a PHP project. We got rid of those. So we're 100% Meteor. Let's see, so quick show of hands. Here's new to Meteor. Who here is new to React? Okay, that's great. It's awesome because I have a lot of intro to React stuff here. My staying.
You're awesome, man. Yeah.
So here's a very brief introduction to React. So at its core, React is simply a framework for creating JavaScript components. So when you say the word component, it's kind of a loaded term. And the term component has been used basically since the dawn of the web. So if you've done any web programming, you probably run into the concept, even though you may not know it. But the simple idea is, how do we take all of our presentation, all of our business logic, maybe some styling, and put it into one piece, one module that we can reuse, that we can share, that we can compose, things like that. So, this is opposed to having server code on the server, and business code on the server, business code on the client, presentation over here, style over here. So, to really serve a holy grail. Because I remember talking about components back in the 90s, then they were server-side components, somehow rendered to the screen. But even though it seems antiquated now to do things on the server, it's the same concept. And React is the latest attempt. React is also focused on UI only. So if you go to the website for React, it says something like React is the V MVC, it's the Vue MVC. I think that's a little misleading because when you read Vue, you think of templating. So in the same way that Blaze is not templates, right? Spacebar is a templating system. Blaze uses spacebars. React is more than templates. React is templates plus business logic. What it doesn't do is it doesn't care about your data. So you can save your data to the server. You can save it any way you want to. It's data agnostic. React is also opinionated. So there's a couple things that React really subscribes to, a couple philosophies, and they sort of enforce those on you. Actually, there's a lot of things that they force on you. The two biggest, I think, are immutability. So it's I probably don't know enough about React to really explain this well, but they claim that having an immutable state, which is a state that you can't change, just gives you tons and tons of benefits. If state can't change, then that allows you to render components very quickly because you know that nothing's changed. So, okay, one back. So if you have a immutable state, if you have two things and you just compare them, if they're the exact same thing for the same object, then you know that nothing's changed and you don't have to render everything. Now, if you don't have a immutable state, you could have two objects, but you don't actually know if they change that. You have to traverse down through if it's like a big JavaScript hash or something like that. So, it's kind of tricky because it's on the home page, but they don't explain it very well. If you dive into the documentation, you'll see that that's how you get a lot of speed up. But it doesn't come for free. You have to learn it up. You'll see that in the examples, you don't see any of this immutability. It's not really a basic concept. Well, advanced, even though it's a core principle. The second thing is one-way binding. So they reject two-way binding. Things that things like Angular will give you. And again, the reason is substitute. If you have two-way binding, then you have more state. If you have one-way binding, you just React, set, and React, set. Okay, so the world system is right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, hopefully it's good. This is the world's simplest React component. So if you've never seen the syntax before, I'll just go through real quick. The first line is where it says React.create the class. That's really simple. That's how you create the component. Every component needs at least one function, which is this render function here. So render will return your presentation. This is where you put your template language. So the catch is people experiment with different, injecting their template languages in there, space bars. What React wants you to do is use JSX. So JSX is something that Facebook made up. It allows you to embed HTML into your JavaScript, and then JSX compiler will compile that HTML to your JavaScript. It's got some quirks. For example, you can't use class, the word class for classes. You have to use class name. Class is a reserved keyword. But you kind of get used to those. It's weird to put markup in your JavaScript again. Everyone always says, hey, that reminds me of PHP. And it kind of does, but it's a lot different from PHP. So there's render, which renders the what you're actually displaying, and then it gives you event handlers like this onClick, which simply calls this.click, and then gives you placeholders for data. And there's actually only 2 of those, and we'll see those later. But let's run this guy. And well, here it is. So if I pull up Hello World. So that's that. List. Okay, so who cares? Right? What's the big deal? I've written JavaScript classes before. Everyone has. When I was trying to figure out what to put here, I was trying to think of a word. The right word, which I found eventually, was discipline. So React kind of enforces its version of composability, and it does so in like subtle ways. Things like giving you, there's only 2 ways to pass data into a component: properties and state. There's no other way to get data into a component. So it's limiting, but that's the intent. And there's other ways that they do that. So Facebook is the giant behind React. So React is technically open source, but Facebook is behind it. And there's not a lot of there's projects that have a whole team of developers that's working on it. So it's hard to figure out if React's popularity is because of the technology or if it's because of Facebook. When Facebook wanted a React conference, then boom, there's a conference. Which Meteor would have a conference.
Amen.
Yeah. And then there's the virtual DOM, which you hear a lot. You can't read about React for 30 seconds before you read about this virtual DOM. So that merits a little bit more detail. Actually, I'll just go to all these. So what's a virtual DOM? I think DOM is it's kind of a ethnicity. So when I think of DOM, I think of browser. So what I prefer to call it is just an abstraction layer for rendering. So what that means is when you call that render function in React, it doesn't render right then. It'll update this abstraction layer, and then at some point in the future, it'll render that layer to whatever it is you're actually rendering to. So it's agnostic to render targets. And that means the same React code could render to a browser, it could render to a canvas element, or it could render down to iOS components. And that's what React Native does. There's people who have talked about in a world where Facebook components and Polymer web components live together, you could render React components to web components, and have standard components. But that seems a little weird to me. So. Okay. So that's it for the React portion. This is the Meteor meetup. So I'll start talking about Meteor. And this is the fun part. When you say React with Meteor, you can do that lots of different ways. You can use React components within Blaze. We'll see that. You can use React instead of Blaze. So you'll just, you'll have a basic template, basic Meteor template that just includes all your React stuff. People do that. Actually, we'll see that. And you can use React without Meteor all together. He's saying, oh, so, okay. So, I'll go through three packages. So React changes, web technology changes fast, right? I had 3 packages here that were kind of relevant maybe a month or 2 ago. There's a couple more now, which maybe I'll mention, but they're not in this presentation. Things move fast.
What's your motivation behind kind of using React?
That is a good question. I think if you think it's better, right, than Blaze. If you like writing apps in React because they're more composable, then you can do that instead of using Blaze. It's definitely debatable, but people are like they swear about React.
Are you still investigating your first big project in React, Meteor?
Yeah. So when I made all these things, when I was kind of making these slides, I was just playing around. I started my first React, probably like a painting project now. It was exciting. So it's small, but we'll see how it goes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just doing the research on React in regards to that, and I think it's a change in concept between going to a template versus doing the component philosophy. So why? That's true. Why would you take what you have on React is like a programming, or in JavaScript you have a programming language, and then we spit it out to handlebars, and then it's like a lower level programming language to get the values that you want. Well, why don't we just keep that in the programming language in JavaScript rather than having to try to translate it to different templates? Is I guess the philosophy. Which does that make sense?
Kind of. I'm trying to see where I would find the pain points to use React. I mean, I'm a big fan of React. Don't get me wrong. Just like Meteor does a lot of magic on its own, so I didn't really.
I don't think there are.
Let's keep going and see where it goes.
Except when you get into iOS apps where React Native is starting to make money. But for web, there are no pain points. Like that's the whole debate. It's like Polymer, React, Angular. They all kind of split in some space. And well, let's go. I'll show quickly. So, okay.
I think that one's simpler than your first one.
Yeah, the first one might have been misnamed. So this is a package that actually, obviously, works for MG growth. And you get the idea, right? So in Blaze, you can do the inclusion helper to call React component, and then you give it a type, where the type equals the name of the React component. And then React components on this side. All it does is measure straight. So I'll show it to you. Oops.
Oh, we don't believe you.
Okay. Yeah. Go through Apache. And so that's okay. So that's not that interesting, I don't think. Okay, so this is a little more interesting. So this package, React.js, React Meteor, it's probably the most popular React Meteor integration package that's out there right now. And in a nutshell, here's how it works. So in your React component, the package gives you this hook in Meteor state where you return a hash, which is just key values that contain your data. And any of the values that are returned from this function get React will re-render. So in this example, we're returning the value, the key of value, and the value is a section variable, which is reactive. So let's look at that one. Okay, so in this component, here's my render function. I'm just going to say hello world and the number of seconds that's elapsed. And then here's one of those two data holders that I talked about earlier. One is this.state and the other being your properties. So this.state comes from our get Meteor state hook, which has a single value, which is a session variable. So this function, component and mount. So component and mount is kind of like render in React. So it'll run once your component is actually placed in the DOM and it's ready to be manipulated. So when component and mount, all we're doing is setting that value in here. So no, I think I should just have to, oh look, reload. It started already. So this is that reactive power, and Meteor has the same concept. We're not actually updating anything, right? That's the difference between imperative programming and declarative programming. We're not saying update this template. All we're doing is setting the data, and then the framework takes care of it. So we're reflecting state, we're not actually manipulating the presentation. So that's pretty cool. And when I did this talk in Cincinnati, we did an experiment where we took this line. There's this experiment, I guess, where we have a line like this and you display it like 1,000 times. If you're doing Blaze, you start seeing it kind of get janky, especially if you start scrolling. But then in React, apparently, it just works a lot better. So.
Can I ask a quick one about get Meteor state? You refer to this dot state.
Yeah.
And what's the connection between get Meteor state and this dot state?
Yeah, so like this value here is the same as that value.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a hash. But if this dot state that value changes, this function is rerun.
Okay.
So
and then get Meteor state is that the only way of creating this dot state?
No.
No. Okay. So there was.
Yeah, you can. So get Meteor state is the package. Is a package. React itself, there's something called get initial state.
Oh, okay.
But then anywhere in the component, you can just call this dot set state.
Okay. Cool.
And when you do that, you run.
That's properties and states. Those are the only two ways you can get data.
Correct. Yeah. And so, like, I don't have this in talk because it's not a React doc, but properties is meant to pass data in. That's kind of how components talk to each other. Now, those actually are readable. Like, if you try to set this.props, whatever, you get an error. So those are kind of like, like fix things, like if you're getting a URL for Ajax, pass that into this props, or just like data. And then inside your component, once it's up and running, you use this state. That's the intent. Which again is mutable unless you do all this stuff, which makes it immutable, which makes your component render faster. And I don't think I understand it well enough to explain. That's a good question. I don't know. Let me try it. It would probably work just in this example. Let's try.
So you're setting each time another interval that starts at 0, so you're resetting.
Oh, so I see it. That?
But also set interval is not bad because component demand will run in the beginning, and then the interval will kind of keep the session set each time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to be here.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's insightful.
I don't recommend it.
So is there a philosophy around like how big components can be? Because like all your examples are just like one line of markup, so
Yeah.
these are like a
There is, well, those are just examples. But
yeah.
yeah, if you look at, I just looked at some tutorials on React and blog posts, whatever. I've never seen a big React component. Like, they're all very small. They're like, like a couple of screens with screens or something on your screen. But I think that's the idea, right? Like, like I can object-oriented programming was like new to tell you don't have a class that's more than two screens. It's kind of the same thing. Smaller components are easier to think about, to create logic.
You know what's cool about immutability also?
What?
You can test them super easily.
Yes, yes. Yes, you can test it. So, again, I'm not experienced with how that really influences React. No, this is, oh, so that's interesting, actually. The person who wrote this is a guy named Ben Howland who works for MDG. He used to work for Facebook, and then he now works for Meteor. And I think that's part of its popularity because people see the often like, oh, this guy works for Meteor. This must be the one to use, right? It's bet on this one. But I put a question mark because if you roll the Meteor package, it'd probably be under Meteor, right? Meteor/React dash. But it's not. So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a side project or if it's, but in any case, not officially endorsed, but Meteor definitely has a lot of things.
I'm not being picky, but with the slash, I'm not sure whether it's an Atmosphere package. Are these Atmosphere packages?
Sorry, no, these are like GitHub.
Oh, they're GitHub.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So it's github.com.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
Thanks.
For example, you require React and React.
So you would do Meteor and Meteor,
React and React.
Yeah, you have to include React.
I see. No, this package. I'm pretty sure this package includes React. It will either. I think it's included. Which you also have to be careful because if you're using two React packages for some reason and they have different versions of React included, then
When you use this package, React Meteor, you React create a class.
do you want?
You just create a regular React class. So it's React.
Oh yeah, yeah. React is just JavaScript. In fact, that's where it gets a lot of power because it can run anywhere JavaScript runs, right? Anywhere the node runs. It can run a client, it can run a server, it can run on Arduino. Whereas Polymer is not the case, right? Polymer only runs in the web browser.
So I'm asking that you could do like bar model to React dot create class.
Yes, yes. Because again, it just includes React, like the stock library.
This probably contains some magic that ties into Meteor so that the variables would be kind of reactive, like reflective.
Yeah, I haven't dug into it too much. It's
Meteor will
big
not
package.
look at the variables unless specifically told. You know, just any kind of variable will not. So that's probably why they need to create this. And I don't know, but I kind of suspect that. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, in that class, you like set state.
Yeah.
Instead of doing like set meteor state, you call it set state.
Yeah, that works the same. That works normally.
Yeah. Is that what you're
Yeah, we'll see. So I have a whole lab to show up, so we'll see that. There's one more package though, which is this one called Radcliffe. So it's the same goal of integrating the two. So they approach it a little differently. They have wired React to React on the render function itself. So think of this as like auto run on render. So your session.get would go here instead of get here. So I have a number for this, but I won't show it because you get the idea. There's a count. There's a count. There's a couple of things about this package though. So really, the big thing here is server-side rendering, right? Like this package fully supports server-side rendering. To do that, it has to ship its own router, so that's kind of, it comes with its own router instead of Iron Router. But it's pretty cool. It works out of the box, and it's worked for a while. So one little rant I have is like everyone's talking about that previous package. Like no one talks about this package. And I'm not sure why. Like the other package does not have server-side rendering, doesn't have routing. But that's the top one right now. And everyone's like, when's this going to get server-side rendering? We're waiting. And it's like buggy, it changes a lot. And this one's like, it works already. It's like it's worked for months. And no one pays attention to it. So I'm not sure why. This one's called Route 4. Okay. We'll build it now with Route 4. So we're not going to build it now. I already built it. But we'll look at it. Okay. Let's see. So what's interesting here? We'll start with this render function. So this render function gives you this is the JSX. This is the actual app. You know what? Let's run the app first. I'll show you what it does, which isn't that much. Oh, there it is. So this is like a really simple to do that. I can add, an item, and then I can check it off, and then I can delete an item. And then I have these tabs at the bottom that will filter. So this is the app we're building. And here's HTML. So this is just HTML. The only thing interesting here is this line here. So here's where we're looping over the to-do items. And we do this state, that's to-dos, map, loop. And then we'll render a to-do item component, which is here. Let's see, let's try. So this represents like a single to-do item. And here's the markup. So now this is starting to get interesting, I hope. If you check the to-do off, it runs this complete function. And we just do to-dos at update, and then we flip the done flag. So to-dos at update, this is just mini Mongo. This is regular Meteor. This is the stuff you put in your place templates all the time. And then remove is the same way, where we just call to-dos at remove. To-dos is a regular Meteor collection. So what happens when you call update? Actually, this isn't really, well, you call to-dos at update, it tells this parent component to react, and then everything re-renders. So here's the interesting line here. So this get initial state, this is what I said before. So that's a React thing where you set the component's initial state. Here I've initialized a variable called todos, which just, and then I just give it the Meteor's reactive todos.find. So yeah, so if you update to todos in that other component, updates mini Mongo, which updates that value, which tells React to update and everything re-renders just by updating. So what else is here? So this other stuff is just, you know, kind of get it right. So submit creates a to-do. You can use that insert. Here's our filters, which are really just queries. And when we get the results of the queries, we update the component state.
So each of these functions, are these React conventions or are these just things you define? So like the all active completed?
Yeah, no, these are like my business logic, business app logic. These are my filters, and I call them in the markup below with the backend. So I don't even have to like update. There's no, you know, it's very much like Blaze works. I don't have to update the template. I just have to set the data. The template draws.
So when you're doing the update, could you do it with like a method call?
Scroll down a little bit.
I'll see why not. As long as at the end you call this .setState. So here's, yeah, so here are those event handlers. So this is how you do it in React. You just say on click, on submit. So this, all this code's up is on GitHub. And okay. So okay, here's okay. So this is the cool thing. Yeah, no, get my cheese back. Since we're using route core, I said server-side rendering is baked in. So if I view the source here, this is all Meteor stuff, and then right here is your server-side rendered Meteor app, right? This is cool. So like this comes for free with the package. You know, this is so it's good for SEO. I don't have to. There's no Spiderable and Phantom.js like nonsense. So this content is sent from the server like a regular web page. So the client can get it, and then it downloads the app, and then the app takes over and starts doing JavaScript and stuff. So I think it's pretty cool. And this is your normal Meteor stuff. So you check it.
Material design?
Oh, design, it's materialize.css. Okay. Well, wait, there's more. One more app. So let's build that app with Asteroid. So,
Could you tell the people what Asteroid is, for those who don't know?
yeah, so if you haven't heard of Asteroid, Asteroid is a DDP client, it's a JavaScript DDP client. So it's just plain old JavaScript. If you're plain JavaScript class that you can use, you know, wherever. So it doesn't have any Mongo and latency compensation and all that, but you can access your DDP collections and you can react on them. So what this means is that if you use Angular with Meteor, you don't have to, the client doesn't have to download all the Meteor stuff, which you're not going to use. You can build a 100% pure Angular app on the front end with a 100% pure Meteor app running on the server, and they can talk via Asteroid. So that's what Asteroid is. Asteroid is just plain old JavaScript. There's no Meteor, there's no React, there's just a JavaScript class. So I built the same app in React with Asteroid. So like here's, this is stuff you never do in Meteor, right? So I'm including all my JavaScript script tags. I need jQuery, I need materialize CSS. Here's my Asteroid library. Here's where I'm including React. And then here's my app. So at this point, it's just this is like a static app. This is in static HTML, JavaScript, CSS. You could host this on S3, you could host it on GitHub pages, you could host it on Dropbox, and this will work. That's cool. So let's see. So let's look at the app. We'll start at the bottom. So I have to get Asteroid up and running, I have to do this, which is create my Asteroid instance, and then I subscribe to the Meteor collection, which is being published. And then when the description's ready, then I can start the React stuff. Like I start with my React app, and this is kind of what we saw before, where you render some JSX. This is how most React apps start with your React app rendered, and then you'll start with like some minimal markup or a container, and then you'll give it a DOM element.
And then that app con equals con, that's passing in a property to the app component.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So right here, this is a prop. It's a property. And up above, we'll access it with this.props. So I'm passing in our PDP connection, so then we can query and stuff. Yeah, actually, it's a good point. Let's find this.props.com.
So then in the to-dos map, each to-do is given the DDP connection, so it can.
Yeah, the same connection, so it can do stuff. So yeah, so this is kind of like the previous example, where this is a single to-do item component. We pass in the data, and then we also pass in our DDP connection. So that when when the to-do calls update and remove, it has that connection. So the interesting part here, so there's the filters, those are somewhat the same. Interesting part here is component did mount here. So in our component did mount, so this is all Asteroid stuff. I get the collection from the DDP connection, and then I can call reactive query on that collection, and then that's just a Mongo query. So I'm just giving it an empty hash, so I just want all the to-dos. And then on the result set, you say on change, and I'm saying whenever the data change, just update the React state. And that's it. So let's see if this works. So I have, the right side is Meteor. Yep. So the left-hand side is our Asteroid. This is a static JavaScript app. This can be running anywhere. And this is a Meteor app. And they're both talking to the same server. So one's using Asteroid and one's using Meteor. And all the crazy reactivity works exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So, okay, so where is the data going?
Right.
interaction.
So like on this side, when you, let's say you, remove a to-do item. So Asteroid actually has an API. It has like insert, update, remove. It doesn't support everything. It's your basic Mongo stuff. So I just call to-do.remove. Asteroid sends it to the Meteor server or DP, which updates Mongo, and then it pushes it down to all the other clients just like normal. That's what we do. So, and then reverse happens.
So no mini Mongo.
There's no mini Mongo over here. Which,
Okay, so basically I have my Meteor app as like the mothership, right?
Yep.
And then I've got this like little satellite thing, but it works just the same. The data flows like a normal Meteor app, except I can run it pretty much like stacks.
Pretty much, yeah. So Asteroid doesn't have, it's not mini Mongo, so it doesn't have all the mini Mongo features. It doesn't have latency compensation. What else? You don't have like Meteor.login and all that type of stuff. It's just EPT.
Smaller and faster. Because
Yeah.
of React, it
Yeah.
might be faster.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be. So there's people, I know people are trying to take the Meteor client stuff and separate it. So you can just say, if you want, latency compensation, you can have that. If you want the Mongo standalone, you can have that. People are trying to like separate the Meteor front end, but I haven't really heard of anyone that's fully succeeded. Right now, it's hard to get to separate it. Meteor is just a big thing. It runs everywhere.
That's what led me to make those graphs, is I'm trying to pluck it apart myself, and then I found out like what's connected to what. You pull on something, and then I found that Asteroid was made, and I cried for 2 days.
Yeah, and actually, this graphs are interesting. Now I understand. I think tracker you can pull out. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. People think I'll tracker, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. So that's it. I know that Polymer. I built the same app in twice with Polymer, once with just Meteor and Polymer, and then once with Asteroid. That goes on GitHub site too. For if you want to go through it, I can show it to you here. If you want to stick on that or now. Or
Yeah.
Come on, speak up, guys.
Okay. All right. Everybody.
So what do you think about Polymer?
I think that it's not bad. I don't think it's ready.
Pretty slow.
And it is slow, especially when you're loading everything at the beginning. So we actually have a Polymer project that's launched and live, and we ran into all these. Basically, they were Safari issues. Chrome worked reasonably well, and you load Safari, it didn't even load at first because it's downloading all of Polymer via acceptor HTTP requests.
How about inside of a phone? Was it slow running inside Android or?
Yeah, actually, this was a Cordova project, so yeah, that really sucked. But when you ship the Cordova project, it kind of it goes with it, so you don't have that usually. I haven't, but yeah, I heard it's like what, 10x faster.
You have to rewrite it.
Leading edge.
I'm afraid to that update. Yeah. I think I kind of like it because you do have that grail of template plus JavaScript, right? It kind of looks like React, but it's early. It only runs in the browser. You can't run it on server. Probably not easily. And it still seems messy. I don't know why. Maybe our templates are just too big. But all the components are bigger.
About components, right? You're talking about components, and I love packages, and components sound a lot like packages.
Yeah.
Is there a repository of components? Like, is there a Bower or NPM for these things, or have they not gotten there yet?
I don't believe there's anything like that. There's a website. what is it?
Customelements.io.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, there's a website that has like some whole list of components. But I don't think you can build like a NPM or Bower until you reason using the same one.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe there'll be one for Polymer and one for React.
So if it's kind of in the days of you go to a website and you download like a zip and you make it part of your app forever and you can't update it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what people are doing now. Although we're trying to do, you can use it like within teams, right? So if your team uses React, then yeah, you can use components, put them in a separate, maybe like a Git submodule or something. Put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
But just for like World Wide Web. Let's see. Let me prepare for this too. Meteor column. Okay, so here's my, I don't know, how many people have seen Polymer web? Nothing, yeah, it's part of that. Or it should be. So Polymer is so web components is a standard, W3C standard that, just like HTML5 is a standard. And so if all the browsers adhere to the standard, these web components you can pass around to anyone and they can run it. When you use it, it looks like a tag. So instead of like less than div, you would say less than my column. And it'll pull from a file like this. So actually, the first line there is the name of my component, which is to-dos-app here. So in my index.html, I'll call so here is to-dos.app. So Polymer, again, is trying to combine presentation, style, and logic. So one nice thing is that you can just use styles like CSS like normal. One thing I didn't get into with React is that since it is all JavaScript, you have to write your CSS in JavaScript, which you will either love or you will hate.
Well, how do you do that? Like JSX lets you write HTML in JavaScript, how do you write CSS in JavaScript?
Yeah, so it's actually not that bad. Like React kind of has some support for it. You have a JSX file, which at the end of the day, it kind of looks like CSS classes, only it's like classes, they're React components, and you call like a function on it, like I forget what's called styles equals and then this, and then React will use it. And, I forget the mechanics, because actually it changes a lot.
But in your examples, you didn't have any styling on your React components then?
No, so in the examples we just saw, I just use CSS. Just include it in the document, like the classes. But they tell you not to do that. It's not the React way.
So there's no support for that class in a sense.
I don't, like, it's not, you can do that because it's all just static JavaScript running. And you'll have a link href. But again, Facebook tells you not to do that. So we're trying to do it the Facebook way. React way. Here's a template. I'll just show you so here's the Polymer stuff. In Polymer, you have, kind of like React, you have to put your reactive data in certain places. And there's more than one place to put it. In this example, I put it in this ready object. Oh, yeah, that's fine. So I think anything off of this is reactive. So I'm creating this application. And just like before, this is like regular mini Mongo. And then I put in an auto run. So whenever the query cursor updates, the auto run runs, sets the Polymer state, Polymer re-renders. So here we can look at the item 2. So here's my Polymer to-do item. I passed in the to-do data, so it's actually this .to-do. And if I check the check mark, I update it, and then if I click the trash can, I can read it. So it looks very similar.
So you're writing directly? Yeah, you're writing directly to the to-dos collection.
Yeah. So this is mini Mongo. This is yeah. So it'll update the Meteor collection. Meteor in the parent app. Cursor will update, auto run runs, and sets the Polymer state.
It looks way cleaner, honestly.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Even though it's probably of all the things we saw, like this is probably the worst shape.
What's that?
It's probably in the worst shape. Like you can't React. You can start using right now. Meteor, obviously, you can use.
Yeah.
This thing is not.
It's early. And just 0.8 is
Breaks all your code. Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
0. Don't update it.
You have to rewrite everything.
Oh yeah, that's good. So this is the same, like that. Safari's in one window, but so anyway, so that's, again, so I wrote the same thing in Asteroid, which is very similar. Instead of the tracker auto run, I'm using the Asteroid on change to do the same thing.
So on this, you said you were starting your first React function product?
Yeah, we're just trying to do React Native, so get past that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if this was like last slide. Sorry.
No, it is.
Oh, okay. Why are you guys? Why suddenly try it? If you're so comfortable in Meteor for so long, as long, it kind of sounds like you're like, yeah, try it. It works. It's good. I don't know which one's better. That beyond just pushing technology and trying something new. Why for investment after you go with React?
No, it's what I want to do is use React Native.
That's all it's phone.
Yeah, it's phone.
Yeah.
So React Native, I never made any kind of mobile app after 20 minutes. Even now, I was able to. Mobile app, which is amazing.
Yeah. So.
And I was actually, it was looking decent enough. I showed it to our iOS developer, and he's like, "Are you trying to steal my job?"
Yes.
No, of course not. I want a capability to do that.
To his face, you say no. Oh, really?
I don't know.
So actually, this is the last slide. Questions, what does it mean? Answers, I don't know. There's other questions. Yeah, did everyone ask?
Yeah, actually.
Random number. Context.
I just throw it up in the air and see the question.
I thought I was gonna ask a question earlier, so I thought of a question. So I do. Can you tell me the name of what was the predecessor to Blaze? What was it called?
Do you like Sharp?
Spark.
I said Sharp.
Oh.
So it was the Sharp UI and Spark. Yeah, that's all good.
We're going for Spark. But Sharp, that's.
Meteor, are you gonna stick around a little bit for questions and stuff? Okay, there is some weather coming in. If you guys are looking at that, like, feel free to take off. A few of us will stick around, so if you can stay, definitely stay. Thank you very much for this awesome thing, and I hope we can tap your brain a little bit. It's right now. It's way over.